네, 여러분 오래 기다리셨습니다. 그렇습니다. 대한민국이 전 세계 최초 개봉이지요. 여러분 많이 기다리고 있는 아바타 물의 길 예고편을 먼저 함께 보시겠습니다.
Dad, I know you think I'm crazy,
The land was big rocks.
but I feel her. I hear her heartbeat. Just so close.
So what does her heartbeat sound like?
Mighty.
We cannot let you bring your war here.
Outcast. That's all they see.
I see you.
The way of water connects all things. Before your birth and after your death.
This is our home!
I need you with me. And I need you to be strong. Strongheart.
그렇습니다. 글로벌 혁신을 위한 미래대화 지금부터 특별 대담을 시작하겠습니다. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let us open the doors of the special session, and I would like to introduce to you the presenter of this session, announcer 혜성 리. 그리고 이번 특별 대담을 진행해 주실 여러분 좋아하시는 이혜성 아나운서를 소개합니다. 여러분 큰 박수로 환영해 주시기 바랍니다. Please welcome her with a big hand.
Good afternoon. Welcome to 2022 Future Dialogue for Global Innovation. My name is Lee Hae-sung, hosting the special session today, Talks with James Cameron. The theme of today's forum is A Habitable New World, Rethinking Technology and Humanity in the Metaverse. The movie Avatar is what comes to mind when most people speculate about the concept of the metaverse. Avatar has allowed audiences to understand the otherwise abstract concept through visualization of the imagination. Avatar presented a world where avatars are active in lieu of human beings, which inspired engineers to create a new world. In light of the object of today's event, to discuss global talking points from a cultural perspective, a conversation on films, which are one of the best examples of the convergence of art and culture, will be a great opportunity. And we are pleased to announce that we have been able to invite director James Cameron himself. Also, director Kim Yong-Hwa joins us, not only as a director of major sci-fi films, but also as a pioneer of Korean technologies related to metaverse, such as VFX, to talk with James Cameron. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome director James Cameron. You can have a seat here. Yeah, thank you. and director Kim Yong-Hwa. Please welcome. Good afternoon, Mr. Cameron and Mr. Kim. I'm very pleased to meet you. I grew up watching your movies and a big fan of you like most of the audience. So, thank you. I will give same questions to you, both directors, and then Mr. Kim will lead the rest of the session. Yeah, thank you. So please let me ask you the first question. As interest of metaverse has increased around the world, your avatar is frequently referenced as the seminal example of metaverse. So how does the emergence of new technologies or platforms such as metaverse affect creators? And does it present an opportunity or a challenge?
I never see challenges. I always see opportunities. Right? So
positive.
well, yeah, you know, I think it's fair to say that the first film had an avatar motif because we had characters that were living vicariously or remotely through avatar characters that were, you know, obviously existed in a different existence than they could. So that's an apt metaphor. The new film, not so much, because Jake Sully has evolved essentially permanently onto the Navi platform, if you will, right? But where I think it's relevant for me as a filmmaker is that a lot of the tools that we create to create very real facial performance and to capture performance and so on could be used, and a lot of the evolution of the technology that we're creating could ultimately be used for very highly detailed and highly realistic avatars and synthetic characters, you know, for gaming and for actual, you know, remote projection of our personalities in a metaverse environment. We're just not there yet in terms of being able to do it in real time, which is critical. And right now, as we know, our metaverse avatars are very crude compared to a finished character in a movie. So the question is, how can we close that gap and get, you know, to near time and then ultimately real time? And that's going to require concerted effort and large investments in order to do that. But I can already see the pathway for how to do it.
What do you think, Mr. Kim?
그 뭐 아바타로 사실은 저는 그 메타버스라든지 뭐 이런 유니버스가 영화하는 유니버스가 막 이렇게 넓어졌다라는 것보다도 저는 사실은 1984년도 작품 제임스 카메론 감독님의 터미네이터를 저는 초등학교 6학년 때 봤는데 그게 아마 효시가 되지 않았나. 그러니까 시 공간을 되게 압축시키고 당겨오고 뭐 타임슬랩 같은 얘기도 거기 들어가긴 하지만 실제로 그 작품이 되게 원류가 돼가지고 지금까지 쭉 그의 SF 세계가 메타버스와 연결되지 않았나라는 생각을 좀 들고요. 뭐 잠깐 사담입니다만 그 영화가 제가 지금의 김용화 영화 감독으로 이름 석자를 알리고 살 수 있게 만든 원동력이거든요. 그때 이제 영화 감독을 해봐야 되겠다는 생각을 슬슬 꿈을 짚었는데 아무튼 이런 자리에서 제가 너무 존경에 마지않는 감독님과 이렇게 대담을 나누게 돼서 너무너무 개인적으로 영광입니다. 메타버스가 사실은 뭐 아바타가 사실은 어마어마하게 영향을 많이 끼친 것은 사실인데 실제로 그게 우리 산업과 사회적으로 경제적으로 그리고 문화적으로 파급하는 것은 이제 태동이 됐다고 보시면 될 것 같거든요. 그런 부분에서 뭐 군사라든지 의료가 제일 밀접하긴 한데 아무튼 아바타가 영화적으로 영화 외적으로 사회 전반에 끼친 영향은 굉장히 파급이 크다라는 생각을 하고 있습니다.
Yeah, it seems that Mr.
Thank you.
Cameron have influenced a lot on Mr. Kim. Yeah, thank you.
Thank
I
you
would-
for that.
I would like to ask you the second question. The sequel of Avatar, which has been long awaited around the world, will be firstly open in Korea. And from the perspective of a culture and artistic practitioner, how do you assess Korea's position as one of the cultural leaders, and what role should such a country play?
Well, when I think of Korea and cinema, I think of two things. There are a lot of very talented filmmakers here, and it's a country and a culture that celebrates the cinema. And a culture that celebrates cinema does two things. One, they appreciate the big screen, and they foster the talent of up-and-coming filmmakers. And I think we're starting to see, a global acceptance of Korean filmmakers, which is fantastic, even at the Academy Awards recently and so on. I know that when one of my films plays in this market here in Korea, it's going to be on the very best screens that are available. Laser, IMAX, 4D. 4D originated here, and now it's spread around the world. So I love the fact that, Korean audiences love movies, still love to go to the movies, which is very important these days, right? And I know that it's possible here to see my new film in the best possible format, the way we intended it to be seen. And that's encouraging.
I'm sure that you will be the one who will bring back the audience to the theater in Korea.
Don't put that on me. I didn't invent the mRNA vaccines and all the other things that are allowing us to return. But yeah, let's remember that if we don't keep the cinemas alive, they'll go out of business. We have to want it. We have to kind of demand it in a way.
어렸을 때 저는 미국 영화와 미국 음악, 팝송 듣고 자란 세대고 그 당시에 이제 저희 세대는 실제로 이제 그것을 얼마만큼 잘 따라하느냐라는 게 되게 숙명적인 과제이기도 했어요. 저는 이제 대학교에서 영화학과를 전공했는데 이제 이 시대가 되다 보니까 어느덧 한국 콘텐츠가 아시아를 넘어서 세계를 호령할 수 있는 그런 시대가 온 게 정말 전 감개무량하거든요. 그런 면에서 되게 습득도 잘하는 민족이라 문화적으로 굉장히 관대한 특성이 있는 것 같아요. 문화적으로 굉장히 남의 것을 잘 받아들이면서도 자기 것을 또 고유의 자기 것을 잘 잃지도 않는 그런 좀 강점이 있는 민족이 아닌가 우리나라가 이제 그런 생각을 좀 많이 해보고 있고요. 저희야 사실은 전 정말 제임스 카메론 감독님이나 스티븐 스필버그, 로버트 저메키스 감독님들의 세대예요. 그 영화를 보고 배웠고 저희 이제 다음 세대 우리 후학들은 지금 이렇게 발판이 잘 닦여진 상태를 이용해서 한국의 봉준호 감독님도 그런 말씀하셨지만 세계적인 것이 무엇이냐 결국 그것은 가장 한국적인 것이 세계적인 것일 수 있다라는 얘기에 동감하고 있고 저희 다음 세대와 저를 포함한 다음 세대들은 더욱더 그런 면에서 한국 문화가 전 세계에 나가서도 더 좋은 위력을 발휘할 수 있도록 자기 것을 잘 지키면서도 문화적 관대함을 가지면서 발전했으면 좋겠습니다. 예.
Yeah, from now on, Mr. Kim would lead the rest of the session.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mr. Kim will throw a topic for you.
일단 저는 제 영화 개봉하는 날보다 더 떨리는데요.
Me too.
감독님 영화를 제가 이렇게 보고 자란 세대로서 저는 굉장히 캐릭터라는 것도 어떤 영화를 보면 사실 캐릭터의 성장을 다 느끼게끔 하잖아요. 근데 제가 어비스라는 영화도 그렇고 다른 영화도 다 마찬가지인데 실제로 연출하는 사람 입장에서 이렇게 보면 되게 데스크에서 썼던 시나리오 이상의 연출력들이 상당히 많이 보여요. 인간을 고찰하는 방법에 있어서 예컨대 어비스에서도 부인이 죽진 않았습니다만 살려낼 때도 보면 보통 일반적인 사고 방식에서는 부인에게만 애원하고 울면서 애절하게 얘기하는 걸 기대하지만 실제로 사람이 그런 순간에 오면 막 뺨을 때리고 화를 내는 것을 저는 그때 어렸을 때 그거를 봤거든요. 보면서 정말 우리가 모르는 우리가 다 안다고 하지만 실제로 연출가는 인간에 대한 고찰을 어디까지 해야 되는 건가라는 생각에서 연출적으로 많이 접근을 했는데 그런 면에서 되게 반대적인 측면의 연출을 잘 하신다라는 생각이 들어요. 이제 그걸 좀 종합해서 말씀드리면 그런 면에서 악인이 선인이 되는 플롯이 있을 거고 캐릭터 변주가 있을 거고 정말 악인이 조금 덜 나쁜 악인이 될 수 있는 캐릭터 변주가 있을 텐데 감독님은 그 두 가지의 선택지가 있다면 보통 캐릭터의 출발을 어느 정도 시작을 해서 어느 정도 변화를 주는 캐릭터 변주를 좋아하시는지. 너무 어려웠나요, 질문이?
That's a really interesting question, and you're going all the way back to the abyss. I think for me, it's always been about playing against expectation. You know, it's interesting, especially in a sequel. You have to do something that the audience expects. You know, they're paying good money to come and see something that they recognize based on the previous film, but then try to play against it, you know, and make the characters as interesting as possible. Like you point out in the new film that KOREAZ isn't the way we expect him to be. He's basically like a shark in the first movie, very simple, right? But in the new movie, he's more complicated. You know, he's got a kind of existential problem. Is he the guy he was before, or is he a new guy? Is this boy really his son? Is he really the father? He's got a lot on his mind. So, you know, I set out to make the bad guy, the adversary, as interesting as you know, as the other characters. And you know, because you're very, very good with the visual effects, and you even have your own visual effects company, you know that the visual effects have to be good these days. They have to be beautiful and perfect. But that's not what makes a good movie. What makes a good movie is the characters, right? And I see that in your work as well. You balance it. It's all about a balance, right? Between the visual and the dramatic and the heart, right?
지금 제가 드릴 질문에 대답을 또 하시기도 했는데 사실 저도 이제 덱스터라는 회사를 갖고 있고 제가 덱스터를 만들었던 가장 큰 이유는 용기를 냈던 이유는 그 제임스 카메론 감독님이 예전에 지금은 이제 안 하시고 계시지만 디지털 도메인이라는 회사 지금 뭐 ILM이라든지 웨타라든지 전 세계 유수의 회사가 있습니다만 정말 효시 같은 엄청난 VFX 회사를 만들어서 도전을 하셨거든요. 그런 면에서 뭐 따라했다기보다는 감독으로서 계속 어떻게 살아가야 되는가라고 한 점에서 저도 VFX를 만들어봤는데 말씀하신 것과 같이 저도 VFX를 잘해야 되는 이유는 제가 만든 세상과 제가 보여주고 싶은 감정을 조금이나마 손괴가 없이 그대로 올곧이 관객에게 터칭시켜주고 싶어서 그래서 완벽한 CG를 만들려고 한다는 점. 아무튼 I see you.
Well, I see you as well, and you know, you're talking about digital domain. That was a very interesting time in history where we were pivoting from analog effects, optical printers. Nobody even remembers what an optical printer is these days. But it was a radical concept at that moment that we would create a visual effects company entirely based on digital technique and digital composite. So, you know, I think that if you're a filmmaker such as yourself, Mr. Kim, that makes films that are fantasy, that are science fiction, you've told me that you like science fiction and you're making a science fiction film now, you're going to be working in VFX, you know, your whole career, you know, because if you're like me, you love it and you want to do it. So actually running your own company in the future will make you the best possible client for visual effects companies, whether it's your own or whether it's other people, because you'll understand what it takes to run a company, to have some kind of a profit margin, how difficult it is organizationally, how difficult it is, and how hard it is to keep the quality up, you know, on a budget and all those things. And so I think that my experience as the CEO of Digital Domain, even though it was only for 4 or 5 years, has made me a better filmmaker and a better client of companies like ILM and Weta Effects, because I speak their language, and it's in my best interest to protect their profit margin, because I want them to make money. I want them to be the best they can be, you know. And the more margin they are able to realize, the more money they can spend on R&D to improve their tools to be ahead of the curve for the future. So I need to be a responsible client as a film director. And your experience now of running a VFX company is going to do that for you. I'm sure it has already.
저는 아직 10년째 적자인 회사를 운영하고 있어가지고 뭐죠?
Yeah, you don't make any profit. That's the thing. But you got to not go out of business.
VFX 얘기 좀 더 드리면 뭐 연관된 얘기긴 한데 질문이, 제가 감독님 영화를 오랫동안 보면서 뭐 시각적으로 뭐 너무나 훌륭한 것들을 영감을 너무 많이 받는데 실제로 아바타 1편 같은 경우에는 그때는 제가 이제 미스터 고라는 영화를 준비하고 있었어요. 뭐 흥행적으로 산업적으로 실패한 영화인데 그걸 입체 리그로 찍어가지고 이제 입체 영화를 만들었죠. 실제로 감독님이 했던 VFX 웍과 샷 플랜들을 연구하느냐고 정말 한 시퀀스를 100번씩 봤어요. 러닝머신 위에다 띄워놓고서 매일 운동하면서. 그러면서도 제가 계속 찬탄을 금치 못했던 부분이, 뭐 그 이전 작품도 마찬가지입니다만 뭐 VFX의 여러 가지 요소들 그리고 미술적인 요소도 포함해서 미케닉 디자인에 상당한 조예가 있다. 그러니까 뭐 어제도 영화 보신 분 다 그런 또 판단 내리셨겠지만, 어떻게 저렇게 미케닉에 대한 디자인과 그것이 영화적으로 어떻게 디자인되어야 공포감이 있고 스릴이 있고 위력이 있는지를 너무 잘 알고 계신다라는 생각이 들거든요. 그래서 그런 생각을 주로 하시되 어렸을 때부터 이제 그런 미케닉 디자인에 굉장히 관심이 많았는지 그런 부분이 좀 궁금하긴 해요.
Well, 3D is interesting. You know, I mean, we're all in 3D all the time. We all have two eyes. Most of us do, anyway. And most of the creatures on planet Earth have a minimum of two eyes. Insects have more, spiders have more, but nobody's got one eye. You know, there's no cyclops out there. So it's something that nature has hardwired into our brains, even hundreds of millions of years ago, our distant ancestors. And we process in 3D. So, you know, I approach the problem as I want to make my movie feel as real in the moment as possible. So I'm making a movie for human beings, and human beings see in 3D. But there are a lot of technological hurdles, as you know now. You've made films in 3D. I've made films in 3D. It's not so easy. The important corner that we rounded was, I guess, probably about the time of Avatar, the first film, or maybe a year before, was getting the digital cinema people who were creating the baseline technology, you know, the chipset for the projectors and the server architecture, getting them to baseline the idea of being able to carry a stereo signal and being able to decode it in the theaters. Because once we got that built in, every theater everywhere that's a digital theater is a 3D theater. So people talk about 3D going down. It's like, okay, that's fine, except that when Avatar came out, there were about 3,000 3D theaters in the world. And now, 13 years later, there are about 120,000 3D theaters in the world. So if a film comes along, if you, Mr. Kim, if you want to make a movie in 3D, or I want to make a movie in 3D, the platform's out there. It's ubiquitous. So that was the true victory of the whole thing, was convincing, you know, the chipset people and the people that were kind of coming up with the baseline architecture for what we think of as digital, what we call digital cinema today, to get it in early. Otherwise, we'd be fighting an uphill fight even now. So now 3D is a consumer choice. You can see a movie in 2D, you can see it in 3D. If you don't like 3D, don't go to 3D. You know, it's pretty simple. I'm still very proud of Avatar: The Way of Water in 2D. Works very well, still beautiful. You're seeing it in 2D here, you know. So the images, you know, the design, the photography, the lighting, the acting, the performance, all those things, all the same. 3D adds an extra layer of immersion, and I think that increases the emotional impact of the movie a little bit, you know, kind of like a turbocharger on an engine, but it's not necessary. I like it personally, and I like it when it's presented properly. And that's the nice thing about the Korean marketplace, is that there's a lot of high quality projection. You know, the audience demands it here, and there's a lot of it installed here.
뭐 너무 잘 아시겠지만 완벽한 3D는 또 완벽한 2D 영화이기 때문에 가능한 거거든요. 이게 사실은 여러분들 아바타를 보셔도 2D에서 보셔도 전혀 무리가 없을 입체감을 느끼실 수 있는 게 굉장히 뭐 렌즈의 선택이라든지 뭐 카메라의 움직임이라든지 여러 가지가 이미 입체적으로 다 설계되어 있기 때문에 거기에 입체 영화를 보시면 더 입체 효과는 배가 되실 거고요. 2D를 보셔도 아무 지장은 없습니다. 그리고 마지막으로 질문 하나 더 드릴게요. 저는 이제 그 감독님 영화를 쭉 보면서 삶과 죽음에 대한 생각을 되게 많이 하신다라는 생각이 들었고, 저도 사실 그런 부분에 굉장히 관심이 많아서 제 최근 영화인 신과 함께도 그런 연유에서 만들었거든요. 그래서 뭐를 하려고 하냐라고 하면 저는 결국은 살아있는 우리들에게 위로라는 한 단어로 규정한다면, 그런 영화를 만들어서 우리가 위로받을 수 있으면 최고의 미덕 아닌가, 영화가 줄 수 있는 최고의 미덕 아닌가라는 생각을 하는데, 감독님은 감독님의 세계관을 관통하는 영화를 만드는 이유를 한 단어로 정의하시면, 저는 위로인데 감독님은 어떤 단어로 귀결하실 수 있으세요?
That's a real. It's a.
How do you define condolence? Giving condolence.
Well, that's really interesting. If you look at the end of Titanic and you look at the end of Avatar: The Way of Water, they're kind of similar because they deal with a concept of an afterlife, or at least how people deal with death. So my feeling, if you're telling a love story, you have to deal with some element of sacrifice. You don't have to, but I like to do that. If you value somebody more than yourself, what are you willing to do, and what does that sacrifice mean, and what does it mean? To me, love and death are kind of two sides of the same coin in narrative storytelling, going back to the Greeks, going back to Shakespeare, Romeo and Juliet. You know, I think love is the thing that binds us together and makes us feel like we have a purpose in the world. And that purpose is critical because we have a finite amount of time here to do what we need to do. Maybe that's to raise a family. Maybe that's just to love someone and to be loved by someone. And to be loved by someone is to be seen by that person, to be understood, you know. So we all are looking for connection. And I think movies very often deal with either love or the loss of love or the lack of love and what that does to people, you know. And that's what I love about movies. It's an art form about us as humans and all the different emotions that we experience. I mean, I like action movies, but action is its own kind of art form. But I also like all aspects of human existence. And the emotions are the most important thing, and that's why no matter how great we become with the VFX, it's still always going to be about the actors. The actors are the ones that mediate the emotion for us up there on the screen and cause us to feel something. Maybe the music helps, maybe the lighting helps, and all the other art that we bring to it. But it's the actors that really pull on our hearts. And that's why, you know, we're both very technical filmmakers, but we also both really understand how important those performances are.
Mm-hmm. So in your movie, death can be overcome by the power of love, right?
I think so.
Mm-hmm. And I have a question about sustainability. You are doing various sustainability projects, and you are vegan yourself. And it seems that themes related to this kind of topic can be seen in the new film as well as in the first Avatar. So could you please talk about your thoughts on sustainable future?
Well, I define sustainability not as some little token thing that we can do to make ourselves feel better, or some token greenwashing thing that we can do as corporations to present a better image to the world. For me, I think of it, when I think of sustainability, I call it deep sustainability. How is the human race really going to be 100 years from now or 200 years from now? What does the seventh generation look like? That's a Native American expression, the seventh generation. What decisions do we make now to protect them, our children's 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 children, and so on? So to me, sustainability is not being done very much up to what I consider to be the level of deep sustainability. To do that, we're going to have to really change our fundamental contract with the natural world and with each other, and we're going to have to redefine wealth in order to do it. So, okay, as a filmmaker, as an artist, you know, can I say something with my voice that makes a difference? I can't, in a movie like Avatar: The Way of Water, I can't tell people what to do when they walk out of the theater. That's not the purpose of it. It's entertainment, it's adventure, it's emotion, it's all those things. But it's not action. It's not, you know, orders of what to go and do that. People are going to have to figure that out in a different forum than a movie theater. And by the way, if you're too preachy, they're not going to show up in the first place. But what I think a movie like The Way of Water can do is maybe remind us how beautiful and how wondrous the natural world is. Maybe remind us that we need to connect with each other. Maybe show some beauty and some hope, you know. I don't think films are beautiful enough anymore. If you think about, you know, an environmental movie, it might be a post-apocalyptic kind of aftermath, burned out kind of world. I don't want to do that movie. I want to do a movie that's a celebration of nature, because it's nature that's getting destroyed right now, and we're not going to protect something if we don't love it. And we all love it at some level, but sometimes we need to be reminded to be in that state that we're in when we're kids. You know, you have a kid go into the forest or, you know, snorkel around a reef, you know, something like that. They love it. You can't get them to come home for dinner. And then we lose that as we go along, I think. So maybe a movie like Avatar can reconnect people with that.
I really admire your love for nature and passion for farming, as well as your filmmaking ability. So as we are running out of time, I think we have to wrap up here. And do you have any words to say?
내가
Mr.
하면서
Kim?
끝낼게요. 그럼 먼저 인사를 하고 그 질문과 부탁하신 말씀 같이 할게요. 그러면 제가 그 지속 가능한 게 뭐가 있을까요? 그 모든 문화와 생물과 모든 것은 아바타와 마찬가지로 생성, 발전, 소멸하는 게 완전 자연스러운 순리인데 지금 감독님이 계속 말씀하시는 것도 그 순리에 역행하지 말아라, 지나친 욕심을 갖고 이제 그런 말씀하시는 것 같아요. 저는 그 영화답게 모든 문화도 그렇고 다 생성, 발전, 소멸하는 과정을 겪을 테니까 그 안에서 최고의 가치를 추구하며 잘 살았으면 좋겠다. 근데 지속 가능한 것을 바라는 건 있어요. 한 가지 정말 지속 가능한 건 감독님께서 정말 언제까지라도 계속해서 우리에게 이런 멋진 영화를 지속 가능하게 계속 만들어 주셨으면 하는 바람은 정말 진심입니다.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and Mr. Cameron, please say goodbye to the audience. Please say goodbye to the audience.
Well, I guess we're done. We're out of time. I think this has been productive. We didn't talk about the metaverse that much. Maybe next time. I got another film coming out in 2 years. I'll come back. We'll talk about the metaverse then.
Thank you for your precious time to directors.
Thank you very much. So happy to have this moment with the director ahead of the global movie release that many fans have been waiting for. Why don't you give another big round of applause to the director and the announcer? Thank you.